What is up, fight fans? I am Jason BURGOS for Sherdog.com, and I'm joined by one of the best welterweights to have competed in a cage over the last 2 decades. He was a UFC title contender, Bellator title contender,
almost 3.
Oh, look at that. And let's not forget, World Series of Fighting champion. He's currently busy with his new podcast, Jon Fitch Knows Nothing, which I'm sure is not true. He knows a lot of things, which is available on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and now on FITE TV. And that man is the one and only Jon Fitch. Mr. Fitch, thank you for some time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry, we were supposed to do this yesterday, but I've been training, so I fell asleep.
Training? So is this just regular training to stay fit, or should we expect a fight announcement soon?
I train a lot just to stay jacked, but no, I'm probably gonna try to fight because I like it, and there's a lot of people who want to watch fights right now who could definitely benefit from a distraction from everything that's going on. And we don't know what's going on with our economics here in this country. So if I can squeeze in, because the rumor is that the Bellator wants to do a weekly show once they get going. So if I could squeeze in a few fights before Christmas, why not?
How much have you heard? I mean, because the last thing was that, they were probably going to use the Viacom studio. Is that what, are you, the rumblings you're hearing still something like that? Is it going to be based in California, or are you hearing something different now?
I just was informed like 2 weeks ago that Bellator was probably going to start doing shows mid-July. So I kind of shit a brick because I was 218 at the time.
Oh.
But I was 218 with like a 5.5 pack.
Of course, we're gonna get to the fighting career stuff, but so this podcast, from what I see, started in October. You're already 60 plus episodes deep. The first 2 questions I really want to know about is, one, what made you want to get into the podcast game, which is already pretty crowded, and if someone asked, what is your show about? Because I've seen you talk about so many things. How would you explain this show?
Yeah, I like that. I like talking about everything, so I don't want to put myself in a niche. Like I like what Joe Rogan does because he talks about whatever he wants to, whatever he finds interesting, he talks about. Well, I want to do that too. Like, I'm not trying to be Joe Rogan, but like, I don't think I should only talk about MMA. Like, I have a different MMA podcast. Like, MMA stuff and issues will come up, but there's a lot of things worth talking about, and it's fun. I was doing something called the Shake Break. The Shake Break was something I did every day during my second meal, which is a shake. And I would live stream and I would interact with my guests. That's still on my YouTube channel, Official Jon Fitch. People can still watch those. So, I was doing that daily for a while, and I just started getting busy with other stuff, and I wasn't seeing as much of a return from the daily thing. And I had a number of people comment that it's too hard to keep up with a daily stream.
Yeah.
So I started just focusing on once a week. So we're doing once a week. Sometimes I do interviews. I'll have a guest on. I sing songs.
Yeah, when did the ukulele love start? Because I was going to ask about that too.
I started playing ukulele like 2010, I think. It was on I bought it visiting a friend in Hawaii. I think it was my honeymoon. And I ended up buying the ukulele and started learning, and it was a lot easier than a guitar. And I'm not good, but I played it on my shake break because I have like a lot of young men who follow me. I have that 18 to like 34-year-old gap is like most of my viewers.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to like inspire them to like not be afraid to suck at things. Like, it's okay to suck. It's okay not to be that good. If you enjoy it, just do it. Like, and I'm way better. I've gotten way better over the last couple of years that I've been doing it, and I have a lot more confidence now. Just because like the hardest thing was when I started having guests on my show and then like singing in front of my guests. That's oh man, that's a challenge, man.
And I'm glad you
brought... like it's definite growth. Like I forced myself to get over like that fear and just not caring. And that's a superpower. Like not caring what people think. Absolutely, it's a superpower.
Like the 18 to 34 part of it, because I'm sure that had to have some influence on you being on FITE TV. Like that's always a key demographic when drawing interest. How did that FITE TV deal come together? And are you like, damn, I just started this in October. I'm even surprised that FITE TV's calling me about this. It's going so well.
Hey, It is and this is something I talk about with the young guys, networks, network effect. All right. You need networks.
Yeah.
You need to develop relationships. And I should have done a much better job of this through my years with the UFC back then. But once I got cut from the UFC, I started to take it to more an effect. There's like the production company community is kind of small. So you end up working with the same people over and over and over again on different shows, different promotions, different things. So there are people who are with FITE TV that worked with World Series of Fighting. My old wrestling college buddy from Purdue way back 20 years ago, Denny, he works with motocross, and he's been in that publicity type game for a long time. And FITE TV just started working with Pastrana, the guy that does like the crazy bike stuff.
Oh, Travis Pastrana, is that what
Travis
it is?
Pastrana, yeah.
Okay.
And they have this fight, moto fight, I think, right? So now they have like a motocross show on FITE TV. So Denny is in with that, and he got in with FITE TV, and he's like, hey, I got my buddy, he's got podcasts and whatever. So he just put us together, and we started talking, and it just worked out that way. Man, I have a bunch of shows. I have a ton of shows. So Jon Fitch Knows Nothing is my main show, but then that's on Sunday nights at 7. And then I have a Tuesday show with my guest, Leah Lee, who's also my business manager. It's called Boomer and Toots. And we talk about a lot of subjects with a masculine and feminine point of view. So we argue a little bit. That's fun. That's on Rockfin. That's behind the premium account, so you have to pay and be a member of Rockfin to do that. I also do a Monday show. It's a mixed martial mindset with Jason Burmis. So we stream that, and we'll talk politics, we'll talk conspiracy theories, and we'll talk MMA. Thursdays I have Cauliflower and Cocktail Hour on Rockfin. That's a free one. Patreon too. That's like I'm trying to develop like a men's group type situation there. So I'll put up little streams and things there. I did one video where I showed people my dating profiles and the strategies that I used for Tinder and Bumble and those things to kind of help guys out to maybe get more matches. So yeah, little things like that.
That last fight with Rory McDonald bother you in ways many people thought you had won that fight, including Douglas Lima. I talked to him like soon after that fight. He felt you probably won. A case could be made you should have been the champion. Headlining Madison Square Garden against Namath Gracie. Does something like that leave a bad taste in the mouth a little bit? You lose the interest in fighting?
I've just gotten used to the universe kicking me in the nuts. like I've stopped believing that like the worst case scenario isn't going to happen. I train, I prepare, and I do everything for the best. But like I've discovered in the last couple of years that everything is preposterous. Like everything is the existence of the universe, the existence of us, the fact that we live here on this planet, like the chances of it actually happening and us living and getting to do this, it's preposterous. Like if an explosion, like in an empty vacuum, there was an explosion in an empty vacuum that spit out all this material and matter that turned into us, right? Naked hairless apes on a planet filled with water, and it has molten lava and magma in the middle of it, and we're flying through space, and like nobody knows what the hell we're doing here. Nobody knows where we're going. Nobody knows how we got, like it's all preposterous. So like, why wouldn't that have been called? So when preposterous things happen to me, I'm like, of course. Yeah. And it just gives me a much better attitude about things, and I'm able to laugh at some of the most horrific stuff. And I think that bothers some people, but like whatever. like it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter where you finish, doesn't matter where you start. We all die. So like you might as well make the most of what you got here.
Now I'm not sure if you saw the big gigantic 10-part ESPN 30 for 30 Last Dance series on the Bulls. Now the Bulls had this dominant run, and as a Knicks fan, a Patrick Ewing fan, I know how many good players, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, Malone, Barkley, didn't get titles because of their run. George St-Pierre had something like that in the UFC. So guys like you, Josh Kasha, Carlos Condit, Thiago Alves, they're like the Barkleys, the Malone, these players, these athletes that could have been champions, but they just happened to go against this guy. Is there still a sting to that kind of fight, or is there kind of like a badge of honor that I was a part of maybe one of the greatest periods in welterweight history, and I just happened to go against the greatest, and I won 5 rounds, so it ain't too bad.
I personally think GSP is by far the pound for pound greatest ever because he faced the toughest competition. Like you said it, like there's any number of one of the guys in the top 10 at the time that George was champion could have been champion. Like, like he beat a lot of the guys, but like he didn't finish everybody. He didn't destroy everybody, but like he was just ahead enough to be better than everybody. So like, I think he's just, like Anderson Silva had a great run, but like his competition was not on the same page. Like, I don't think Connor's competition is on the same page. No offense to the people who are still around right now. But like also it's the age of pro wrestling. Like there's less competition and it's more pro wrestling. It's more about the show and your notoriety rather than your skill set. So like the sport's kind of lost a little bit there too.
Is there a moment where you feel, because I was going to ask you about that, you had made a similar comment to M.A. Junkie a couple months ago about, like the sport is gone, it's more about entertainment. Do you feel there was like a specific moment you feel you can point to where it changed? And also, can it not be changed? Is this MMA from here on out?
The point where it changed 100%, like I could feel it being pushed that way for a while. And I talked about it. I talked about this 10, 12 years ago. Like they were starting to turn into pro wrestling. Like, if they can just put on a fight between Brad Pitt and some other actor, I can't remember who I said at the time, like people would pay for that and they would pay way more for that than any other athlete.
Logan
so, like,
Paul and KSI.
Yes. And that proves my point. So like I'm Nostradamus, man. I've been calling this shit for a long time, but like the point where it sealed it 100% was when they acquired all the titles and all the top 10 guys, when they monopolized and they fully monopolized the market. Before, there was some competition. You could actually go to Strikeforce, you could go to WEC, you could go to Pride and make similar money. But once they sealed the deal with buying up all the titles, buying up all those contracts, like they became all powerful and they only care about short-term profits. They don't care. Promoters don't promote. They don't invest into the fighter. Like what they do is they take somebody who already has notoriety, somebody who already has juice, and they squeeze the F out of them until there's no more juice left. Right. And CM Punk is a perfect example of this. They didn't have to build him up. They didn't have to promote him. They took somebody who already had notoriety. They threw him in there. They made bank off of him. Like, and him making $500,000, he got robbed. Like his name brought in more money than they paid him for. Like he didn't get 50% of the money that he brought in. Like, he got to fulfill a dream, so it was like a good deal for him. He probably would have done it for less money, and he made a ton of money for them. And it's just, I mean, that's the thing that bothers me the most about the past was the fact that I didn't get another chance at George, right? And it had nothing to do with my skill set. It had nothing to do with, I didn't win enough fights. It had to do with they didn't like me pushing it. I wasn't a company man. I wasn't going to bow down to them, and they squeezed me out. They pushed me out.
What do you feel then about like the big story the last week or so? Is John Jones say, release me if you're not going to pay me? Jorge Masvidal, release me. So, but what do you think?
About time. Those guys are being robbed the most because they're bringing in the most amount of money. Right.
I feel though that the UFC is just gonna be petty and just wait out their deals, put them into litigation. Like this feels like a moment where they're gonna have to suffer to make a union happen.
They're going to. Man, yeah. So yeah, the UFC has all the power because the person in any relationship who can just walk away is the person who has the power. And that's the UFC. Because the UFC, they control the title, they control the ranks. They'll just take some other guy nobody's heard of yet, put him in there and say, oh no, this guy's better now. We'll give him the ranking. And I'm sorry, but most of your average fans, they don't pay attention. Like, and once they signed the ESPN deal, it became a McDojo type of thing. It's McDonald's. Like they're selling Big Macs. They just want to sell a bunch of Big Macs. They don't care about filet mignon. They don't care about, world-class food at all. They just want to crank out. It's a money printing machine. And a lot of guys don't need to understand this. The reason why MMA is so popular right now and is on so many platforms is because it's cheap. It's the cheapest live event to put on.
Yeah.
It costs the least amount of money, and you pay the athletes, the labor and the product, you pay them the least out of any other live event. If it was a concert, bull riding, any other sport, those guys make at least 50% or more of the gross revenue. That's not the case in MMA, and that's exactly why they put it out there, because you can't get people to sit down and watch commercials unless it's a live event. So everybody's realizing, hey, we can get this slave labor in there to work and make people watch commercials. So it doesn't have anything to do with how good the guys are, who's the best, rankings, anything. No, they're just putting together, because people want to watch fights, people want to watch violence. They don't really care who's the best fighter. They'll pay to watch two bums fight. And that's what the UFC is banking on. Now, I disagree with that. I think people do care. I think people at the end of the day will care. I think they're just aiming low and taking the easy way, the low hanging fruit. And I think we would all make way more money, and the promoters would all make way more money. The industry itself would make more money if the restraints were removed the UFC's placed on the market.
Do you think that, a lot of people remember Curt Flood in baseball. He was the guy that really pushed free agency for the people that don't know, suffered from it, was pretty much blackballed. Is MMA going to need a Curt Flood? Is Jorge Masvidal, Jon Jones going to have to become a Curt Flood to really change things?
I was trying to be the Curt Flood and try to get people to step up and walk behind me. And I hope that on some level they've been listening a little bit, because it's the same story over and over and over again. These guys are starting to feel it. They're not independent contractors. Jorge Masvidal, he just made a statement about, hey, if I'm an independent contractor, why can't I go and work anywhere else? Why am I only allowed to be here? If I don't take the fights you give me for the bullshit money you're offering me, my contract gets paused. So he never gets to leave. If you're a champion and you don't like the money they're offering you, you want to test yourself in the free market, you should be able to retire for 6 months, be a free agent.
And then, you are one of the very best welterweights of the last two eras, like I mentioned earlier. If you could face one of the top welterweights right now, where all the conditions were right for you in terms of the money, the interest, and stuff like that, is there a preference? Is it just, I want to face a champion, that's the most interesting thing? Or are there certain fighters that maybe you admire or even hate? Like a Douglas Lima, Masvidal, Covington, Usman, that perfect scenario you'd want to fight.
No, yeah, belts. I want the belts. So fight for the belts. So Lima, it would be the obvious one, because we can't fight out of our we have restraints on the market that prevents us competing with somebody from another promotion. So that would have to be the first one. But I would love to fight Usman. I think I could beat him. I'm an old man. I still think I can beat this guy. I still have a lot in me, but yeah, it just sucks that we'll never know. And people always want to complain about boxing, and the top guys never box. We just saw Wilder and Fury. Okay, yeah, that never happens in MMA. It's never happened, and it can never happen.
Yeah,
it can never happen ever, right? Yep. So don't tell me about, we never get to see the. Yeah, we do. Sometimes we do. And that comes down to independent businesses deciding they want to do business together. That's America. You don't like that? You don't like America. This top-down control, I say UFC runs like communism. It's a communist country. You have a central authority who dictates, right? They collect all the money and they dictate where the money goes. Sounds like communism to me. That's not America. And it's very strange that Donald Trump supports that.
Yeah.